This is the first module in the chapter on project execution and installation commissioning. The chapter starts with an overview of the civil works needed for a photovoltaic installation, and it's followed by modules that look at the mechanical and electrical works, environmental issues, other critical issues and quality, the safety and labour risks, and finally commissioning. It's important to distinguish between two types of solar PV project. Rooftop projects rarely require much civil work, other than the installation of connections for the inverter and meter and perhaps some safety devices for workers. On the other hand, civil works are very important to ground projects. The main civil works will be the terrain levelling, the construction of access and internal roads and paths, and trench excavation for cable installation. In order to minimise unnecessary environmental impacts and unnecessary costs, there are certain good practices that should be followed. First, if possible, seek out flat terrain and support your solar panels with a structure that doesn't require the construction of a concrete base, again if possible. The effects on the terrain and environment, as well as structural requirements, should be taken into account when choosing between sun tracking and fixed solar options. Design the roads and paths to allow the necessary circulation of trucks and make best use of the paths and features that already exist. Will entrance to the site be limited to simple two-axle trucks, or should the roads accommodate the turning circles of articulated vehicles? The table on this page is a simple guide to vehicles turning circles that can help you calculate road requirements. And this illustration shows the requirements of a B3 to C3 vehicle to make turns of between 30 degrees and 180 degrees. Once commissioning of the installation has been completed, the internal paths will probably not be used much, so it may be sufficient to construct internal paths from sand and gravel, as shown. Normally in a PV project, it's recommended that all cabling is buried underground to protect it against atmospheric conditions, vandalism, and other problems that may cause cable damage. By placing manholes every 40 metres or whenever there's a direction change, access to the cables is eased. Here are some typical designs for trenches, and it's good practice to use a similar cross-section for all cabling. A typical trench will have a river sand base with sufficient space for the pipes where the cables will be laid. The trench should be backfilled with sifted soil and soft sand, as well as a cable caution tape. If there are vehicles passing close to the cabling, a concrete layer should be set at the top.